Right, plenty of other issues I want to get across now. Let's get to them. Daily Telegraph James Willis and media commentator Karalee Katsambanis. Let's start with that head-to-head today. Energy Minister Chris Bowen basically handed his backside, as my father would say, not just by Ted O'Brien, the shadow counterpart, but also by Chris Bowen. I played that out a moment ago. James, you know, I think this whole energy debate is huge in the campaign. I know the macro is cost of living, but this is how cost of living plays out for everyone, because you know, electricity is essential like nothing else, and it's in the supply chain of almost everything we buy.
Well, Peter, that's right, and it comes back to how small businesses survive. It comes back to business. It comes back to larger industry and having enough power and not being told that we're going for blackouts or brownouts and they could be in trouble. But it was refreshing and about time that Chris Bowen copped some serious tough questions, and I thought Chris Ullman handled that very well. The response was terribly disrespectful and disgraceful to his journalism and also to Sky News, but Chris Bowen has been refusing the tough interviews. He doesn't go on a lot on Talkback Radio. He rarely does interviews with anyone of merit. He's happy to go on social media and bag Peter Dutton and spruik his own policies without challenge. But you're right, this should be front and centre, and Peter Dutton and his senior opposition front bench cannot be talking about this enough. From the power bills that mum and dad play right up to the top end of town, they have failed on this. And look, they could have taken a leaf out of Peter Dutton's book, and Chris Bowen by now and Anthony Albanese should have said, look, energy, it's volatile. There's been international factors, the coalition, everything else. We got this wrong. We know prices have gone in the other direction. Instead, they're refusing or gaslighting the Australian people.
Yeah, and Chris Bowen too, long storied career at the ABC, then Channel 9, only recently at Sky. So to try and sort of drag him down by the fact he's on a Murdoch network program currently, he's clearly done his homework. He did that terrific doco on the whole energy mess. This is where Bowen's exposed. And Karalee, I'll bring you in if I can, because Bowen's also in trouble in his seat. There's Compass polling out today that says his seat of McMahon in the west of Sydney is really at risk. His challenger is a true independent, a local tech millionaire, a guy called Matt Camanzuli. He's sitting at 41%. Bowen, I might add, is way back in the field on 19. It's a real conservative seat, underlying in a social conservative sense. It voted no to same-sex marriage. It voted no to the voice. The Libs have got about 20% support there. So in terms of the preference flows, I reckon Bowen's in real trouble.
Thanks, Peter. Lovely to be with you, James, and all the viewers. Look, it is quite prophetic, isn't it? It was only half a dozen years ago that Chris Bowen said the infamous, well, if you don't like our policies, don't vote for us. So, I mean, it's good to know that he's reminding the actual electorate of that. And as you say, it's even more ironic. You know, the treatment of Chris Ullman, as you said, very disrespectful. Good to know that Chris Bowen keeps an eye on Sky News, Australia's news leader. But it gets away from the point that he just seems wedded to this green hydrogen renewables package when a lot of other people and countries have got out of it. Even Andrew Twiggy Forrest has called it quits. He's abandoned all his green hydrogen projects. But the bottom line is, Chris Ullman was quite right. No one's power prices have gone down. Bowen hasn't taken responsibility for that pledge that our power bills would go down by $275, and he's still on the bandwagon. He's always the first one that when Dutton, you know, proposed nuclear, you know, the three-eyed fish and the three-headed this and that and what have you. But the bottom line is, he just seems wedded, and it reminds me of a Seinfeld episode where George said to Jerry, "It's not a lie, Jerry, as long as you believe it." Seems like Chris Bowen is saying that to himself. This renewables push is just ridiculous. We've got to call it quits. We've got to get out, and we've got to get Australia back on track.
And look, I guarantee you, a bit like Matt Keane, the moment that Chris Bowen is no longer in federal politics, this is where he'll go to earn a coin. He will take jobs in this sector. I see this as just one big job advertisement, CV sort of strutting around for that rent-seeking industry. But we'll see. Mark those words. We'll see if I'm right down the track.